Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam Wolf, and we've got a trailer reaction for you. Possibly one of the most controversial trailers to come out this year. Because of course it is. It's from Ubisoft, of course, and it is the Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer. This actually used to be codenamed Red. Assassin's Creed Red. And it has been finally revealed as Assassin's Creed Shadows. A lot of people are up in arms about this one. Mostly because of the main protagonists. And I have done everything in my power to avoid anything anybody's talked about in terms of this trailer. I want to see it with fresh eyes. I did do a little research on my own, and we'll get into that after the trailer. We're going to be watching a few of the videos. We got the trailer here, and then we got like a breakdown trailer and so on and so forth. So that way this video isn't so short. I mean, this is only like 3 minutes long, so I kind of want to get the full perspective of what's going on here. But Ubisoft, of course, is no stranger to controversy, as they seem to love. But I think we need to look at it ourselves objectively and really try and figure out if the outrage is warranted. So let's get into it. So, as far as I've heard, it is just a cinematic, which is a shame.
Who are you?
And it's in English.
Who do you serve?
I don't know why they couldn't just go the extra mile and do
All
Japanese.
I have ever known in my life, our land, our customs, my family burns in the name of unification.
Well, that looked like it hurt.
You are still a frog in a well who knows nothing of the sea. The ocean's filled with new ships, but they all come from the same river. Greed. Power. Vengeance.
And you, will you continue down that river?
If there's one thing that Ubisoft can do is actually make decent cinematics. I think they do a very good job with telling a story,
What we see.
or telling the story that they want to tell anyway.
Together. We must learn to trust, rebuild.
And follow the blade.
I'm not sure about the music choice. It was good to start. Now it's kind of just gone and... It sounds like Japanese. So it's probably a modern Japanese pop song. So at least there's that, but I don't think it's fitting for the game.
I said, who do you serve? We are the shadows.
There's the Assassin's Creed theme song there. That's pretty cool. So it's coming out November 15th. That's typical timing, I suppose. Okay. The biggest thing about this, two things. One, I looked this up. Female shinobi did exist. Shinobi being ninja. They did exist. I believe, if I remember correctly, they were called kunoichi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. However, this main character here, as you guys probably saw in the next video, which is one of the videos we're going to be taking a look at, her name is Naue, I guess is how you would, maybe Nao. And this is Yasuke. Yasuke is the controversy here, not her. She is actually Japanese. She is a shinobi, which they did exist. And allegedly female samurai existed, but that's... I mean, I can only believe what I've researched, and all signs point to female samurai did exist. They just weren't utilized as much. I would like to think that the female of the families, you know, of the men who were samurai, they were trained in case they needed to defend their home. They could, but they weren't actually used as warriors out on the battlefield. They were more or less the last resort, in my understanding. You can correct me if I'm wrong. We're all here to learn. The controversy is this man right here, Yasuke. He existed. He was a real person. However, the point of debate is whether or not he really was a samurai. I'm inclined to think he wasn't, based on everything that I've looked up. A lot. It's a back and forth. There's conflicting arguments. He was, he wasn't. He had a fief, he didn't. He did serve under Nobunaga during that time period where Nobunaga was trying to consolidate all of Japan under his one rule. And I guess sometime during his campaign, he went across seas. I think it was to Africa, because he was interested in other cultures, and this man showed up, or he took this man in. He wasn't seen as a slave. He wasn't seen as the Japanese people didn't hate him, apparently. And these are accounts from commoners that wrote letters and took account of what they saw, because they had never seen a man with his skin color before. They thought he was dirty, so they asked him to wash up, and it never came off, and so they were just in awe of this human being. So he wasn't treated with disrespect, apparently. But he was under Nobunaga's rule. Some accounts say that he was a right-hand man, sort of. Not like direct right hand, but he was one of Nobunaga's favorite subjects. Whether or not he was a samurai, I don't think he was, because many accounts say he was never given any land, any status, and to become a samurai, you had to have what was called a fief, which I think is land. You were to be given land and named as a samurai by the ruling lord. So, and he wasn't. He was more of like a retainer, somebody that Nobunaga trusted, but maybe not that much. And some accounts do say that he was at the last stand. He fought when they were pushed back to the main castle, and he took Nobunaga's head in order to save it. Nobunaga committed seppuku, and then in order to save face, so that the enemy couldn't have him to mock him and put his head on a pike for all to see, saying, "Hey, I am now the legitimate lord because here's Nobunaga's head." He took his head and vanished. And I guess after that, there's no accounts of what happened to Yasuke, but he did exist, just not in the way that this game is portraying. He was not a samurai by many accounts. He was just some guy that Nobunaga had respect for and liked, and so on and so forth. So I think that's where the big stink is coming from, and I would have to agree. I think the outrage is a little bit too much. You really, everybody should do their own research. There's a lot of, and it's hard to believe what, people are saying online, because people could say whatever they want and it becomes truth according to the masses. But do as much research as possible. I did as much as I could find, and there's a lot of, like I said, conflicting arguments. That he was a samurai, that he's not. I'm inclined to believe that he wasn't. I think that for the Japanese people to give a foreigner such a status would be, well, very much unheard of, especially back in the feudal Japan period, just because they were so closed off to the rest of the world for the most part. They did try to invade Korea, but that came at a large cost to them, and it never actually, nothing ever came out of it. But for the most part, they were isolated from the rest of the world. They had never seen a man like him, and for him to just immediately be given a status just because he's, just because Nobunaga liked him, isn't necessarily true. So now, whether or not Naoe or Nao, I don't know how. Maybe they'll say how to pronounce her name in the trailer. Whether or not she was real, I'm not entirely sure. I was looking up doing some research here. Female ninjas, kunoichi, and I looked up female samurai, and they have a specific name, Onamusha, which translates to female warriors. That took me by surprise that was actually the name, because I'm thinking of Onimusha, the game. And I'm like, well, is Onimusha, does that mean male warrior? No, Onimusha was just the name of the game. I don't think, obviously samurai means warrior. But Onamusha, that was actually very interesting to find out that's the name of a female samurai. But again, very few and far between in terms of female samurais existing. So let's take a look at this trailer where it explains who these two are. Yasuke, we know more about. I'm actually let's take a look real quick. No, that's okay. So they're using a name of a famous samurai, but it was it was not female. It was a man, and he wasn't a shinobi. So, I think they're just using a generic name, and giving it to somebody. Right. So this is Who Are They?
With our dual protagonists, we have two fantasy, the samurai and the shinobi. We want the...
Hold on. Wow. I didn't understand any of the first words that he said. And of course, they're going two protagonists again, just like in Odyssey, just like in Valhalla, pretty much since Odyssey. I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with is them dictating who's the canon character. For the last two entries, Odyssey and Valhalla, they have said that the female protagonist is the canon character. I don't think it should matter, but I played female. I played what's her name in Odyssey, and I played the male variant of Ivor in Valhalla.
With our dual protagonists, we have two fantasy, the samurai and the shinobi. We want the player to experience both, and we cannot squeeze both fantasy into one character because samurai and shinobi came from a different social class.
Right. And in that case, that's not a bad idea. I'm not going to lie. It's not a bad idea to split have the two characters be different, be something different. Whereas in Odyssey and Valhalla, you were playing the same story, and you could be the same classes, use the same weapons, all this other stuff. This is a different twist, at least. They're at least doing something different this time. And also, by the way, I know we're pretty far into the video already. As I've said before, I've decided never to buy another Ubisoft game because I don't trust them. They took away the crew, and I'm not okay with that, and I refuse to buy any of their games. Their games, I mean, before I know it, their games will probably be up on PlayStation Plus, and I'll just download it for free. But, so I will not be getting this game, whether I have interest in it or not. I'm going to stand my ground on this one. don't support Ubisoft. This is going to be, I think this will be an interesting take on the Assassin's Creed, but all people asked for was an Assassin's Creed in Japan, because we're talking ninjas, we're talking the shinobi. People wanted that. Samurai even. You want to play a good samurai game? Play Ghost of Tsushima. It's the best samurai game out there. You want to play a good shinobi game? I would say Sekiro. Sekiro is a good one. Go back even further, go to Tenchu. Tenchu was a great franchise. But as far as this goes, I'm not going to be buying it, especially for the prices they're asking.
They have different lives, so we cannot really mix them together.
The historical character of Yasuke presented a really exciting opportunity for the narrative team. We approached it in the same way that so much of the work is done in Assassin's Creed, which is really in terms of research and history first.
Well, that's a straight up lie. We already know that Yasuke, while he was a real person, was not generally accepted as a samurai. So their research is completely wrong. I don't know who they consulted, if they consulted anybody, but if they consulted Sweet Baby Ink, then we have an issue.
Not a lot is known about him.
True.
But what we did know, or we do know, is that he arrived in Japan in 1579, right when our game starts. And that he had relationships with some of the most interesting people in
Mostly
our setting,
Nobunaga.
like Oda Nobunaga, the Portuguese and Jesuits, which made it very sort of tantalizing and enticing.
That lines up with my research as well. Like, yeah, that I can't speak for the year that he arrived, but the people that he knew, yes, that's true.
From a narrative perspective, to come in and start weaving these facts with story in between.
The more we read about the character, the more he was inspiring for us. He's a foreigner discovering Japan, and we thought it's the perfect fit because he's discovering Japan and you are discovering Japan also.
See, here's my discrepancy is that from what I understood, Yasuke was brought to Japan. I don't know if he just arrived there. I'm pretty sure Nobunaga brought him back from whatever country he visited. I could be wrong about that. That's my understanding of what I read. Correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect, please. But my understanding is Nobunaga brought him back. He didn't just get on a ship and arrive in Japan.
And on the flip side, we have Naue, who comes
I nailed it. It's Naue. I knew it.
from the province of Iga, which is a remote mountainous area, fiercely independent, known as the birthplace of shinobi.
It's very interesting how they
contrasting.
How they use Naue, but she's not a real person. Like they take Yasuke, who was a real person, and then compare him up with a brand new character that they just came up with.
Perspectives that really expose a lot of different sides and facets of the era.
When Oda came, he completely destroyed Iga. You have Yasuke and Oda that coming to destroy the shinobi. So it can kind of create this interesting tension between two characters.
We were able to connect her to the province of Iga and the legendary Igan shinobi historical figure, Fujibayashi Nagato, who's her father in the game. So we understand why she has the skills that she has and the values that she learns from her father.
So he was a real person and she's not in the legendary Igan shinobi historical figure. Yeah, so they even made her father a real person, but she's not a real person. Fubiyashi Nagato. So that means her name would be Naue Nagato. Oops. Even on Reddit, historically Nagato was not known to have a father to daughter, with his only recorded son being Fubiyashi Yasumasa. So again, they put a fake character with a real one. Why? If you're going to have real characters, real historical figures in this game, why not keep it consistent? I don't know if Reddit, again, it's Reddit, so I pinch of salt, but people are passionate about this. And if he had a son, why not make it a son? Oh, right. DEI. I forgot. We got to have a female somewhere and we got to have a black guy somewhere, you know?
game. So we understand why has the skills that she has and the values that she learns from her father in the people of Iga, which are valor, benevolence, and wisdom. And as a young person still at the start of the game, we get to see now we acquire even more of that wisdom as the story unfolds.
And if you ask anybody, it's super clear that samurai will be combat heavy,
which is my
and
game
a
style.
shinobi will be stealth heavy. It creates this distinction.
Which means if you want to play an authentic Assassin's Creed experience, you have to play the shinobi.
Right away, Yasuke can fight with all his advantage, his stature, like he's a big guy, he can break door, he can fight multiple enemies, he can break armor. Compared to Naoe, like her character and their outfit, it's really about being stealth, being unseen. She's the only one with the hidden blade, so they have clear advantage that put them into the stealth and the combat.
I like the way the
even
hidden
if
blade
they
can be
a bit of both.
changed to the side like that.
Really
That's not the
great
first time it's
pair
done that,
together,
but
because on one side we have Naoe, who's very intense and passionate and determined woman who is very set on her goals. She's kind of got her heart on her sleeve, and she'll say what she feels in the heat of the moment. And this intensity that she brings as a shinobi, but that she also brings to her relationship. And this balances very well with Yasuke, who is sort of a thoughtful, level head to Naoe's fiery passion. We really thought about somebody like Yasuke historically, who was able to come to Japan and have the life that he did there, to enter service for Oda Nobunaga. And
they at least got that
achieve
part
all of
right.
the things that he did. Like, what kind of person would go through all of this? So our Yasuke is very intelligent, thoughtful, and respectful of this culture that he encounters. And that makes him a very nice sort of counterpart to Naoe. He's a bit mysterious as well, and that's something we get to see unfold as the game progresses.
See, here's the thing. They could have just made a random female shinobi, not tied to any historical figures at all. You know, her father doesn't need to be some famous historical figure like this guy. What was his name? I'm sorry, I forgot already. It's over. Whatever. Nagato. Fubiyashi. Sorry. They didn't have to associate her with a historical figure. They could have just made some random female shinobi, because they did exist. But now they've just thrown another historical accuracy out the window and put her as the daughter of a real historical figure who never had a daughter. So their research, they're just playing with it now. So the research is invalid, because now they just changed history, which we know that a lot of these people love doing that. Some of the facts are correct from what I've researched. Most of them are wrong. And again, I am inclined to believe, especially people online who are of Japanese descent, who know the stories, who have even done their own research about their own culture, and have clarified for those of us who don't speak the language. They have translated a lot of those old letters from the commoners back when Yasuke was brought to Japan, saying, yeah, they were excited. They were curious about this new foreigner coming to their land, but none of them spoke of his status as being dressed up as a samurai or being a samurai at all, because he wasn't given any status like that. He wasn't given any land. He wasn't, of that magnitude. And he was just a favorite retainer of Nobunaga. I would have been fine with the female shinobi. That doesn't bug me. What bugs me is that she's now made the daughter of a historical figure who never had one. Why can't they just stick with the program? I'm already telling you guys, Ghost of Tsushima, Rise of the Ronin. I've been watching my brother play that. It's fantastic. It looks good, but it's accurate. There's no black people in it. There's just Japanese people in it. In terms of its history, I don't know if it's accurate, but I mean accurate in the terms of like it's Japanese. Everybody there is Japanese. And that's further down the line. That's more of like the industrial age of Japan, I think, or close to it. I could be wrong about that entirely, but there are guns and stuff like that. So, and clearly in the feudal age of Japan, guns existed too. But this one seems a little bit more like there's some Western influence. Western character influence. Like there are actually Western characters in there because Japan was eventually visited by the Western society. Let's see what else. Like I said, Sekiro is also a great option. There's so many other samurai. If you want to be a samurai or an assassin, there are many other choices than this. This is ridiculous. You want to try and tell a story of historical figures? Why don't you pick one that makes sense, like Nobunaga, or, you know, maybe not a warlord. Maybe you could have done Naoe by herself, because now you've divided, which I thought was a good idea at first. And then after they described the fact that, oh, Yasuke is just a powerhouse. He's just samurai. He doesn't do assassinations and stuff like that. Then what's the point? Then he's not an assassin. Then why is he there? The only assassin here is Naoe. So it doesn't make any sense. This is, I wanted to look at this objectively, and I am, but objectively they're wrong. So I can't take this seriously. We got one more here. So they're explaining the samurai, shinobi, and feudal Japan, which I wouldn't go to Ubisoft for historical explanations of anything, but let's humor them a little bit.
Hello, this is Akeem Milne, the Assistant Director of Cinematic Design on Assassin's Creed Shadows.
And I'm Jonathan Dumont, Creative Director of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And today we're going to take a look at our reveal trailer of Assassin's Creed Shadows.
From the beginning, we really want...
And you know, the worst part is that Assassin's Creed Jade, which is the other one that was revealed a while ago, which, by the way, again, this Assassin's Creed Red and Jade, they were announced along with Assassin's Creed Infinity, I think it's called, their whole Assassin's Creed universe thing. That was a while ago. That was like a year or two ago. How do they not have gameplay to show? That's the other thing. I don't understand that.
Wanted to try to create this atmosphere of danger, so we're getting glimpses of our shinobi protagonist, Naoe, as she chases down a target through the shadows. We want it to feel as though she has complete control over her environment.
By the way, the trailer was in 4K. These other two videos are only at 1080p, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Glimpses of her in the background. Not really sure what we're seeing. And finally, we get her incredible reveal here, cloaked in shadows.
Naoe is from Iga. She is a farmer warrior, daughter of Fujibayashi Nagato.
But
she is
he
a
didn't have a
capable
daughter.
person, let's say that. As we were going to learn in the trailer, she will be taking on a role of protector.
And again,
All I have ever known in my
that is true. A lot of, like I said, there was some accounts that females were trained in fighting styles in order to defend their home if they were the last resort.
life.
What we're looking at is the province of Iga, the homeland of Naoe. It's isolated a little bit in the mountains, and they were home of the shinobi. They come from here, or at least a portion of them come from here. And the interesting thing is, once we traveled to Japan and we visited this province, it became very clear how that world came together. Like, so it's sort of isolated in the mountains, sort of kept to itself. It's
Funny how they
good
have the
representation
subtitles
of
here,
of
but they didn't
that
have it
place.
in the last video. I had to activate the subtitles.
Our customs. My family. Burns in the name of unification.
I don't know why they didn't just go in full-on Japanese.
So what we're seeing here are the troops of Oda Nobunaga. In 1579, there was the first attack from Oda Nobunaga's clan, and then in 1581, there was a second attack, a much more violent one, where Iga got crushed. And what we're seeing here is the Oda troops marching into the province of Iga.
Bringing split screen into the trailer was part of our attempt at formulating an homage towards a lot of Japanese media and culture. And so we try to incorporate some of that style.
Apparently, a lot of Japanese people hate you, Ubisoft. They hate you right now because you have just destroyed their history. They maybe destroyed is a bit of a strong word, tarnished. There's a lot of people from Japan, apparently. This is just apparently, allegedly, I don't know. I haven't seen comments particularly, but I've heard that there's a lot of Japanese people who are not okay with this.
Into the game as well. It's reflected in a lot of our cutscenes and cinematics. And we thought it'd be really cool to bring that on as early as possible. And so we pushed for it in the reveal trailer as well. It allows us to kind of show off both protagonists at various points in their lives and how maybe that relationship can change over time.
When we have Yasuke that turns around and says,
You are still a frog in a well who knows nothing of the sea.
it is a proverb from Japan. For us, sort of resonates with both their journey. As they open their eyes or know a little bit more, things are not necessarily as they seem. And that's sort of a driving force for them. That's what is going to unite Naoe and Yasuke. That's something that's bigger.
So gray area, basically. The world is full of
here
gray
we're in
areas.
Sakai, a big port in Japan. The ships that we are seeing are Portuguese ships. They are a version of the black ships or a lot of the merchant ships that were coming in and out of Japan at this point. A few came to Sakai, but mostly in Nagasaki. But for the sake of the trailer, it's happening in Sakai.
You notice how he just said, for the sake of the trailer. So historically, these ships did not normally come to Sakai, but they went to Nagasaki. But for the sake of the trailer, they had them come to Sakai. That tells you enough right there that they're willing to change history for the sake of entertainment or for the sake of whatever point they were trying to make with this. You can't trust these guys. They're literally changing history just for their trailer. It's like, no, why would you show that? Show something else.
Greed.
The person we're seeing on screen is Oda Nobunaga. So he is known for being one of the three great unifiers of Japan.
Yes, but he never...
very polarizing character, depending on which side you were.
Never actually came to fruition
audience here with Oda
with
Nobunaga.
Nobunaga. He got
And
close,
one of
but...
the reasons why this meeting could even happen is due to Oda's deep relations with the Portuguese through trade, which resulted in him becoming quite a force to reckon with when it came to the use of Teppo. All this to say, Oda Nobunaga is an incredibly powerful figure at the time, very important to our story as well.
So from my understanding, from what he just said, that means Yasuke came over on a Portuguese ship? I don't know if he was being traded as a slave or just traded away or something. I don't know. Like I said, my understanding of what I read prior to this was that Nobunaga went to Africa. I don't know. I think it was, I don't know if it was Nigeria specifically, but he went to Africa and brought him back. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
There are a lot of
I might have misunderstood.
About, Yasuke's arrival in Japan. The most common one is that Yasuke came in a couple of years before this meeting, and he learned Japanese quite fast.
And
he
you'd
was
have to.
very fluent into the Japanese culture, and it impressed Oda. So his stature, of course, impressed Oda. He was seen as super big. His skin color was one thing as well that the reports on the Chronicle of Oda say that was the first African man that Oda had ever seen. Oda asked him to stay with him, and this is what we know pretty much of the story of Yasuke. So there are a couple of elements that we will see also in the game that are historical reports of his presence, but then after that there's quite a bit of an interesting what if with him that will happen.
Power.
The initial volley, this is a concept that we had very early on, this really cool idea of the initial reveal of Yasuke emerging from the gun smoke. To us, that really ties him to Oda's battle style, and as probably one of the most important people to Oda in our game specifically. And what we're seeing here is a battle between the Oda clan and another rival clan, as a big part of the unification was taking down some of these rival clans for territory. What we see is Yasuke cutting people down with a great deal of ease. These are all moves that are going to be in the game. We specifically made sure all the choreography shown in the trailer are all taken directly from gameplay itself.
How about showing some
Choose
gameplay?
another path.
One of our big breakthroughs in this game is definitely this element of dynamic time, seasons, and weather. And we were kind of racking our brains with how to depict this in a trailer. And so one of the ways we thought about establishing their relationship was to kind of break the rules of time a lot. We're seeing them out of place a lot. They're seeing each other, but that might not be literally the first time they meet or lock eyes. And what we're seeing here really is kind of a culmination of both of their journeys.
Even though Yasuke has been on a journey as a fighter for Oda Nobunaga, does he think that this is the right thing to do? Now he's confronted to the destruction of the province of Iga. So sort of a tying two worlds together at this point.
In particular, the shot of them in the open field to us is really this moment out of time. It's them speaking to each other on a level that might not literally have ever happened, but it's really the moment that really brings them together.
Yeah, but okay, so they just said that, you know, Yasuke is now questioning whether or not what he's doing is right. And it's like, I mean, we don't even know much about the guy, let alone his reasoning for what he did, you know, doing the things that he did for Nobunaga, if he did anything for Nobunaga other than just be his retainer. They're just making up stuff now. And they could have just stuck with her, not given her a important historical father figure, not even bothered with Yasuke. Stop doing the dual character thing. That's all I got to say. It was cool at first. Now it's just stupid. After I found out that like Yasuke is not going to be able to do assassin stuff. Like, then what's the point? I mean, you get two different play styles and it's cool or whatever, but like you might as well just Assassin's Creed means assassin. That's what she is, not him. But they did this for DEI garbage points, you know? They're doing this, oh, we got a black guy, we got a female shinobi. What about just a Japanese person? Female, male, doesn't matter.
And just like a quick little note here for those eagle-eyed viewers, you'll note that the split screen is slightly different here, which was once again a deliberate decision we made. The other one has a bit more of a slant to it, maybe a bit more aggressive, especially if you're familiar with like anime or manga codes, comic book codes. But here, flattening it out a little bit, establishing
they're on
that
an even
maybe the
playing
relationship
field.
is different. I don't want to speak too much about that, but given the time period of our game, unification is a really big deal. And I think the concept of unification can mean very different things.
The video's getting longer than I expected, but
and it definitely
I had a lot
resonates
to say,
with
a
too many
lot more than I
characters.
thought I did.
And we must look for it together.
So what we're seeing here is that Naoe and Yasuke do have allies in the world. Like every good shinobi, she has access to a network of spies and people that can help her and trade for information. And we're seeing here is somebody giving her information on the whereabouts of the person that she's looking for. In the game, you can switch between both characters as you please. They do have a life.
Are you serious?
They're not played, so when you switch back characters, you can see them.
So they're pulling a GTA
something
5.
different.
Most of our black box level designs allow for both playstyles to work kind of perfectly, and you can choose the one that you prefer. If you want to go in and just be full of brawn, cut people down with Yasuke, you have that option. If you want to take a sneakier option, well, you'll see what that looks like in a second.
Rebuild.
This is my favorite part, the wink.
A big thing we were pushing for in our trailer was to really humanize our protagonists. Real emotional stakes, make them feel like people you could actually see in real life, especially given that Yasuke is based off a real person. We wanted to be
He's not based off. He was a real person. Based off means you made him up, but you have the traits of a real person. Well, that's the way I see it. Based off a real person. He was a real person. But they wanted to humanize it. Well, what else would you do? Would you animalize him? Like, I know I'm being nitpicky. It's just language. If you're going to speak English, speak English. Don't try and just like bastardize the language. Like, let's agree to speak the language we all wanted to speak, like we all agreed upon. This is ridiculous. He's based on a real person. He is a real person. Yasuke was real. Not based on it. You could say that Naoe was based on somebody. But what do you have to humanize him for? People, by all accounts that I read, people loved him because he was different, because he was interesting. They've never seen a person like him before, as tall as he was and as dark as he was. That's enough. He's humanized. There you go.
authentic, at least somewhat, to a full breadth of emotions that he can portray.
They're just banging out buzzwords like they always do.
We developed quite a bit of new tools for Naui and stealth, and one of them is the grappling hook. And the grappling hook allows
That's not
you
the first
to
time.
climb over walls that you cannot climb with Yasuke or without the hook, which opens different paths for
It's not the
Naui.
first time they have
And there's
a
quite
grappling
bit
hook in the
of
game,
hook
in the
points
series.
In the game, so within every layout that you're going to see, and sometimes to come in from a different entry point. So it's an integral part of their stealth arsenal.
Interesting that they have only certain grappling hook points. Ghost of Tsushima did the same thing. But in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you could use a grappling hook on any wall, anywhere. So, strange.
She can navigate much faster into the open world.
That's a step back for the grappling
And
hook.
that's one of the big changes between Yasuke and Naui. One of the key differences is her ability to take a much more vertical approach. And a lot of our locations are big castles, big tenshu's with these giant walls. And it offers her a whole new vantage point for a lot of these missions where Yasuke doesn't have necessarily the same opportunity.
Now we can fight and hold her own against a few enemies, but she's not a big brawler like Yasuke is.
Clearly.
To take on a horde of enemies, right? She is light armored and she's quick and she's agile.
And that's definitely one of the key elements, her sheer speed. She's very, very quick and extremely lethal. But as soon as she's seen, the danger really rises for her, and she's got to get out of there as fast as possible.
So very similar to the later Assassin's Creed's Origins, Odyssey. Well, maybe not so much Odyssey, but Origins, you wouldn't want to get overwhelmed, otherwise you were screwed. There were some other Assassin's Creeds where like you did actually have quite a disadvantage being surrounded, but I can't remember which ones. But I'm not partial to that. I think it's kind of ridiculous to think that a trained assassin couldn't hold their own against a group of enemies. Like, yeah, their first instinct would be to get out because they know that the overwhelming odds would eventually get to them. And I think that goes for anybody, an assassin or a samurai. Nobody would want to be 1 against 10 all the time. So anybody's first inkling would be to get out of there. But to have a deliberate gameplay limitation like that, I don't know. That doesn't really, it's not appealing to me. I'd rather play Yasuke, who can literally just cut down entire groups instead of being hampered by the fact that, oh, I'm light armored, but I'm quick, so I can leave. I can leave better. This music, I can't.
Is destruction in the game, Joe? Are some things breakable in our game, would you
shit
say?
is breakable in the game. Part of our dynamic world and the dynamism that we created for Japan goes also in the low-level destruction. So the weapons that we put a lot of little technological breakthroughs for our weapons, where you can destroy a large amount of props in the game. You can see him plow through the Suji doors. You could,
Hold on, is he holding a weapon at all?
With the Kenobo.
Is the weapon
Obviously, the goal is
disappearing,
still
or
not to
what is
break
that?
everybody's stuff, but Yasuke can do it as well as Naui, depending on the weapons they're using.
That's right.
Now, my
Yasuke's
question
not
is,
the
do
only
they
one that can break
have-
through those shoji doors? Now I can assassinate people through them.
Do they have colored tiered weapons? Are they putting RPG elements in there? Are they keeping that, or are they going to
This
a
is
classic
weapon that
like
Yasuke can carry around
upgrade
in the
system?
game. It's called a Kenobo. It's a very heavy weapon that does a lot of damage. It's a little bit of a slower weapon compared to katana, for example. But it is a weapon that brings a lot of destruction as Yasuke wields it. And Yasuke is a strong man, so he is the perfect candidate to handle the Kenobo in the game.
I said, who do you serve? We are the shadows.
I still don't like
That served the light.
that everything's in English. I mean, I guess you could say that you could say the same thing about any of the Assassin's Creed. Like Odyssey should have been in Greek. Valhalla should have been in, I guess, Norwegian. I would have loved to play Origins in. Well, that's part. There's Alexandria, so that would be Greek, but the language that Bayek spoke. I'm not 100% sure what he would have spoken. Anyway, I'm a sucker for really authentic games. I would have loved to play. I mean, I could have at least played Assassin's Creed 2 trilogy in Italian. I mean, that was an option, but it was because Italian's usually an option anyway, because that's where they sell it. But it would have been nice. I hope that maybe they include Japanese as a language option, so you can actually get a little bit more authenticity into this. You get half a point for that, but
Blade has 2 functions, so it can come out as a regular
right, straight hidden blade, or
stabbing people. But now we can extrude the second portion and flip it so that she has a dual wield using a smaller weapon called a tanto and her hidden blade at the same time. So that's a.
I don't think that's the first time they've done that, but I could be wrong. I think I saw a real hidden blade that was made into a dagger.
And what Joe touched on is something that I know fans have been wanting for a long time, to bring back hidden blade combat, like being able to just fight with your hidden blade. And we brought that back with the Tanto style. It's very cool, very fast. Once again, very
it only took them 5 games to do that.
When it came to the name of the game, that was something I remember Joe talking about, making sure we had some sort of base into the original lore. And this...
What? Oh, all right. Well, whatever. It was over. Anyway, I've had that happen. That's the second time that's happened. I don't understand what's happening with YouTube, but I'm pretty sure my internet's fine. Who knows? Anyway, so that's all the trailers they've got there. I don't know. It's an hour-long video. I didn't expect it to go this long, but I was talking a lot. I had a lot more to say than I expected, but now that I've seen that, I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to see if the outrage was justified. I think some of it is. So, people on the internet, they go a little too far with their outrage and they make stuff up. But some of the outrage behind the historical accuracy definitely justified. He was not a samurai, as far as most accounts go. My distaste comes from the fact that Naoe is related to a real historical figure, even though she herself is not. They could have just made her without having to give her a father. Like, they could have just said she's just some random girl who fell into the shinobi lifestyle. She was some poor girl from Iga. They could have made up her parents. It doesn't matter. Like, I thought the 2 playstyles was a cool idea until they said that basically Yasuke is just a samurai. He cannot do assassin stuff. And of course, Naoe is a shinobi. You don't want to stay in combat with her for too long. Otherwise, well, you get overwhelmed. I just don't. I don't like what they're doing here. This is ridiculous. To think that this would be okay is not good. This is not okay. They should have just all we did for so long. So many people have asked for an Assassin's Creed based in Japan. That's all we wanted. We didn't ask for you guys to put yet another black guy in a game where he doesn't belong. Like, Yasuke was real, sure, but he didn't do all the things that they're going to say that he's going to do. They're rewriting history, and that little thing about the ships being in Sakai instead of Nagasaki, that was enough to throw me for a loop. I'm like, you literally just said it yourself in the trailer. This was not historically common for ships to show up in Sakai. Sakai, excuse me. They usually went to Nagasaki, but for the sake of the trailer, we brought them to Sakai. Like, what? And then they were basically saying, they didn't say how Yasuke got there. They just said he came to Japan. Did he come on the ships that ended up in Sakai? I doubt it. I doubt it. Especially since they were Portuguese ships. Last time I checked, he's not Portuguese. I don't know. This is Ubisofting a game up. They're making it up now, and I can see why people's outrage is a thing. I agree with some of the outrage. I don't agree with all of it, but I can absolutely say, like I said, I'm not buying these games. I'm not buying their games. I'm just here to react to their garbage, and, well, it is garbage. If you want to play an Assassin's Creed game that's better than this, you can play Ghost of Tsushima, because you can be a samurai and an assassin in that game. with one guy. And there are female characters in there too. They're not playable, but they're there. Hell, the one you learn all your assassination techniques from is a female. So, yeah. Anyway, this is just DEI garbage, as usual from Ubisoft. They deserve every bit of backlash they're getting. Again, some people take it a little too far. They've gotten some things correct, but the large majority of this game is wrong. And I doubt they're going to reverse course on any of this. They certainly don't have a whole lot of time if they do reverse course. Enough of the dual character crap. Stop. Just stop. One of the most beloved characters in your franchise is a single person. Ezio, in case you didn't know who I was talking about. He's possibly the most beloved character. Maybe Edward is probably close second to him. But in my opinion, Ezio Auditore is the best character they've ever created in the Assassin's Creed franchise. And he's loved by literally everybody. You'll not, I mean, other than the craziest of crazy people, you will not find a single person who loves Assassin's Creed say anything bad about Ezio Auditore. He was the best character they ever had. And now they're just making stuff up. So, yeah, don't buy this. Don't support Ubisoft, because now they're just making it all up, and they're just making history be what they want it to be, and that's not right. If you're not going for historical accuracy, then fine. You can't. Then don't say that you are. You know, but they literally said in the trailers that they are of all their research, which means they went into history. This is what we believe to be true, and it's not true. If you were going to make, it's like Battlefield 5. If you were going to make an alternate history sort of thing, then say that. Then fine. That's okay. Fine. Whatever. But to say that Yasuke is based on a real person, no, he is a real person. You're using the real person and making something based on him, not him based on something. You know what I mean? They're making up a story based on Yasuke. They're not making Yasuke based on somebody, like somebody. He was a real person. I don't know. I think I'm being confusing now. That's how bad this is. Well, I hope they enjoy their lack of sales, because I don't think anybody's going to buy this. And if the Japanese culture, or if the Japanese people are genuinely upset, if that is actually true, this ain't going to sell anywhere. Certainly not over there. But anyway, those are my thoughts. The video's a lot longer than I expected, but hey, I have a lot to say. And, well, that's what you guys are here for. You see the ratio? I'm going to do a nice little thumbs down. Be a part of that downvote ratio, because I think it deserves to be downvoted. Again, ratioed. What was did the breakdown get ratioed too?
Hello, this is Icky.
Don't care. Yeah, hardcore. So people are letting their displeasure known, and good, because it deserves to be downvoted. Go to this trailer, downvote it to hell. This is not an Assassin's Creed game. This is just... They could have just called it Shadows. Not associated with Assassin's Creed. They have done this time and time again, and I think it's time that they need to change. Stop with the dual protagonists. We don't need a male and female characters. We just need one character. Male or female, I don't care. One character, please. Thank you. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and please join me again in the next one, where we'll take a look at another trailer, give our reaction to it, our thoughts and opinions. And if you guys would like, let me know what you think of this game in the comments down below. If I got anything wrong in terms of what I researched, please correct me. I am open to criticism. Just be respectful about it. But, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. I like to learn proper history. And, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, I'm Adam Wolf. This is Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I'll see you guys in the next one.